Jesus performed amazing miracles for many people. He prayed for people to hear and see again, help people walk, and even raise people from the dead. Today we'll be looking at one of these amazing miracles where Jesus feeds over 5,000 people with just a little boy's lunch. We're going to be reading from John chapter 16, verse 1 to 15. Just let everybody get ready. John 6, verse 1 to 15. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing those who were ill. Then Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for everyone to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will that go among so many?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to the disciples, "Gather the pieces that were left over, let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Word of Jesus' miracles and life-changing teachings were spreading. He was becoming something of a celebrity. That day on the hillside near the Sea of Galilee, a massive crowd of over 5,000 people gathered to hear him. In the midst of the crushing mass, a bad situation became obvious to Jesus' disciples. These people would soon be hungry, and clearly there was no possible way to feed them all. Andrew found the young boy in the crowd who had food, but just 5 loaves and 2 fish. Miraculously, Jesus multiplied the small meal into a feast for thousands, with baskets of leftover food. Jesus knew what these people needed, and from the start, he knew what he was going to do. Through this amazing miracle, he demonstrated that he could and would provide. And even more, Jesus showed that when he gets his hands on our stuff, blessings explode in abundance. Jesus could have spoken a simple word and the food would have just appeared. He could have simply thought about it and the hunger of all the people would have been instantly satisfied. Maybe some people think he should have done it that way. It certainly would have been faster. But Jesus didn't. Instead, he let the people experience hunger. He helped his disciples recognize their utter inability to solve the problem themselves, and he used a young boy's small offering as part of his miracle. The day after he miraculously fed the 5,000, the same crowd gathered again. Jesus illuminated the events of the previous day with an even deeper spiritual meaning. "I am the bread of life," he said. "Those who come to me will never be hungry again." That's John 6:35. In the Old Testament, God communicates the same idea, explaining that he purposely allowed his people to hunger and then gave the manna to them to help them realise that they need him to live and be truly satisfied. That's Deuteronomy 8, verse 3. God often works in these ways, so we realise that only he can provide for our deepest needs and hungers. He wants us to know that he will provide even when it may not seem possible to us. And he may also want to involve us in that process of provision. So everybody's got a coloured bit of card on their table. And in your boxes or on the table, you have some scissors. So can one of the younger people tell me how many corners does a piece of paper have? This piece of paper? 4? So your paper has 4 corners. But what if you give somebody a corner? So I want you to take your scissors, cut one of the corners off. Lost mine. So just cut one of the corners off like that and give it to the person sitting next to you. Okay, so now that you've given a corner away, how many corners do you have? 5. Wow. Right. You see, the more times Jesus divided the bread and fish, the more he had to give away. Not only that, the people had more than enough. And if you cut another corner, someone else can have a go. Cut another corner and give that to the person next to you. How many corners do you have now? 6. Just like when Jesus took a boy's lunch and blessed 5,000 people with it, he can do the same thing with us. He can take what we have and bless other people with it. We trust in God to provide, if we trust in God to provide, and Jesus might just use what we already have to bless others. Are you aware in this very moment how much that you rely on God? That he is the ultimate provider of all your food, all your water, your shelter, and even the air you breathe as you listen to these words. Let's take time to give God credit for his provision. Take stock of his divine provision for our lives and what we may have taken for granted. As we all think about this, and we will have a chance to share, I'm just going to invite Jonathan up just to give some examples of what God has done in his life. Please welcome Jonathan.
Okay, so when I was 8, I was injured and it hurt a lot for me. And there was a lot of confusion about what had happened. But God helped me see the light at the end of the tunnel and gave comfort to me and my family. This has helped me a lot through my walk with Christ. Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Jonathan, for that. We're going to have an activity now to help us all think and reflect on God's provision. I need a couple of volunteers to come and throw a ball at the target. If no one volunteers, I will pick people. Yeah? Right, if you stand here. Don't throw it too hard because you might knock it over. He looks very excited. Here you go. Right, go on. Oh, try again. Oh, so I believe that hit family. So, has anybody got any examples of how God has provided or helped them as in their family unit? Nicholas?
Do I have to come out?
You don't have to if you don't want to. But
I recall just before Christmas, I got COVID first, and then I passed it on to everyone in the house.
oh, yeah.
Just before Christmas, I got COVID first. I think it was on the 23rd or so, or 24th evening that I noticed that I had COVID. And then the next thing I know, my son, my daughter, and the other one, and of course the mom, everyone got COVID. So Christmas and New Year was just obviously quiet in my house. Everyone was sort of isolating and feeling sick. But to the glory of God, I think we had one of the best New Year dinners, if I can recall. So that's something about the family I can share.
Thank you for sharing. Has anybody else got any stories to tell about family? Or should we have another go at throwing at the target? Right, go then. You've got to try and hit another one now. Going on again. Oh, friends. Has anybody got something they would like to share about their friends? If you hit school, you can say something if you want. Has anybody got anything they'd like to share? Oh, Shelley's got something. It's all right, Shelley. I'm going to bring a mic to you.
I'd like to say that my friends have helped me a lot through my life. Just so important, friends are vital when you haven't got a lot of family, as I haven't. Yeah, friends are really important and really a blessing.
Thank you, Shelley. Oh, you got you. Has anyone got a personal story they'd like to share? I can talk if no one wants to come up. So, I think for me it's been an amazing journey so far. You know, as many of you know, I came to Christ in September 2020, and it's just been so life-changing for me, and just personally what I've gone through, it's just so much healing and, you know, seeing the world in a whole new light. And it's so counterintuitive to tell people that don't believe that, you know, surrender is the true way to freedom, because that's not what we're taught in the world. But I think God's amazing, and, you know, I just really hope that other people can, you know, experience what I've experienced and what we've all experienced. And, you know, and I'm starting to see things happen in my family, which is great as well. So, praise God. Are you going to hit school? Oh. School! Have you got something you want to say about school? I can't. No? There's only a finite amount of young people that actually go to school, so come on. Are you going to go? Yeah, come. Thank you. Oh, do you want to come up, or do you want the mic? Yeah, go on, you come up.
Well, I'm just thanking God that he was able to keep my school open through like COVID and lockdown and stuff, because I really don't know how I would have been able to do as well as like I've been able to keep up with my school if we weren't able to overcome COVID as well as we did. So I'm quite thankful for that. Yeah.
Thank you for our little sporty helper. You you can go and sit back down now. Thank you. Thank you for everyone that spoke. I think nothing is impossible for God, and if we trust in him, He can use ordinary things, including us, and do extraordinary things. And I think it's really important that when we read through the Bible and we see about these great acts of healing and provision and miracles, that we don't forget that, you know, we might not be feeding 5,000 people out of 2 fish and 5 loaves, but we really need to take the time to acknowledge the provision that God provides for us and what he does in our everyday lives. So let's praise God for the needs that he meets and the lessons that he seeks to teach us through our dependence on him. Thank you.